Hi, welcome to the CrafteeManatee. Today I'm going to be showing you how to crochet this spike stitch cluster dishcloth. Today I'm going to be working in this colorway with the changing color background and the solid white spike clusters, but I've also worked this dishcloth in this colorway. And as you can see, it is a lot easier to see these spike stitch clusters. This one I did all different colors throughout, and you can see on the back, this is what the back side of the dishcloth will look like. Because we're making these spike stitch clusters, the back does have these little circles. And so I think it looks kind of fun with all of these colors with the spike stitches and the circles on the back. But you can also work it in this more muted colorway, which is what I will be showing you today. And so it does all blend together very nicely, including those back circles. You can barely even tell where they are. They are just very blended in to the dishcloth. This version is worked with the Dishy yarn from Knit Picks. This other version was just a plain worsted weight yarn. It was the Caron Simply Soft. So this version that we're working today is a lot more suited for actually being in the kitchen. This one I was just playing around with all of the fun colors. But other than that, let's go ahead and get started crocheting our spike stitch cluster dishcloth. Here are the materials that you're going to need for today's video. First, you're going to need about 36 grams of worsted weight yarn in whatever color you want the primary color to be. And then we're also going to need about 20 grams of worsted weight yarn in our secondary color. Today we will be using a 6mm crochet hook or the letter J. And finally, we will need scissors and a tapestry needle to tuck in yarn tails at the end. To get started, we are going to chain 30 in our main yarn color. And for me, that is the yarn that is changing colors and not the solid white. So we're going to go ahead and chain 30. And I will meet you back here once we have finished this foundation chain of 30. Now we are going to single crochet starting in the second chain from our hook, and we're going to continue all the way along this foundation chain. So we're going to be working 29 single crochet stitches along this chain. And I will meet you back here once we have finished single crocheting 29. Now we are going to chain 1 and turn our work. And we are going to work 29 single crochet stitches back along this row. And we're going to do that for 4 rows. So for 4 rows, you are going to chain 1, turn your work, and single crochet 29. And I will meet you back here once we have finished those 4 rows of plain single crochet stitches. Now we're going to switch to our secondary yarn color, which in my case is this solid white. So we're going to attach that yarn and then chain 1 and turn our work. And we're going to get started on our first spike cluster row. For this row, we are going to go ahead and single crochet 4, and then create a spike cluster stitch. To create the spike cluster stitch, we are going to be inserting our hook into 5 stitches of previous rows that we have worked in order to create the design on the front of the fabric here. So we're going to insert into 5 spaces down here. Our first one is going to be down 2 and over 1. So we will insert into this stitch right here. And then we're going to go diagonally down to the left 1. And then diagonally down to the left again. This will be our third stitch that we're working into. And then we're going to start working up on the other side. So we're going to go diagonally up 1 to the left and do that again for our 5th stitch right here. So I will work it on camera with you, but I just wanted to show you which stitches we are working into just so that you have a rough idea. So we're going to go ahead and insert our hook into this stitch over here, pull up a loop, diagonally down left, pull up a loop, diagonally down left again, pull up a loop. And we are going to work up on the other side. So diagonally up one to the left and doing that again. And you can see we now have 5 loops on our hook. And now we are going to yarn over and pull through all 5 of those loops. And that is our first spike stitch cluster completed. I'm going to pop up a few pictures here on the screen that show a little bit clearer how to complete this stitch, and it's easier to see where we are inserting our hook, since in this example I'm using black yarn on white instead of this multicolored yarn. That can be a little bit hard to see. And now an important thing to remember with the spike stitch cluster is to skip one stitch whenever we are continuing along. So we want to skip that one stitch right there, but then you can see that we have another stitch that is kind of being covered by this last spike cluster stitch here. So you want to make sure to get your hook into that stitch that is the next stitch to be worked. And after you work that spike stitch, we are going to single crochet in the next 7 stitches. So we just worked the one, we're going to single crochet in 6 more, and I will meet you back here for our next spike cluster. And now we're going to work our next spike stitch cluster. So we're going to do it exactly the same way that we did the other one. We're going to insert in 5 stitches in this pattern. We are going to yarn over and pull through all of them. And now we are going to single crochet 7 stitches again. Remember to skip one stitch back here, but make sure to get your hook in the following stitch that is kind of covered by our spike stitch cluster. And I'll meet you back here after you work 7 more single crochet stitches. And we're going to work another spike stitch cluster. So I'm going to show you this one final time on camera here. We're going to go down and to the right in that stitch, and then diagonally to the left again, and then start working up diagonally and diagonally, and now yarn over and pull through all of them. And now we are going to single crochet 7, and then we're going to work 1 single crochet in the last stitch. So this final repeat here, we're going to be single crocheting 8. And I will meet you back here at the end of this row. And now we are going to be switching back to our main yarn color here and chaining 1 and turning our work. And now we are going to work 3 rows of single crocheting in every stitch across. So we're going to work 3 rows of 29 stitches, and I will meet you back here for our next spike cluster row. And now we are going to switch back to our secondary yarn color, chain 1, and turn our work. And we are on to our second spike cluster row. So for this row, we are going to single crochet 8 and then work a spike cluster. So I will meet you back here once we have single crocheted 8 and we'll work a spike cluster together. And now we are going to work a spike cluster just like we did in the previous row. And pull through all of those loops. And as you can see, these spike clusters on this second row are going to be in between the ones of the first row. So we want to offset them. There will be another one right here. And that's how it's going to go with these 2 row repeats here. So now we are going to single crochet in the next 7 stitches, but remember to skip one where that spike cluster was, and don't forget to get in there to get that one that's kind of covered up by the other stitches. So we will single crochet 7, and I'll meet you back here for our next spike cluster. So we are going to work our spike stitch just like normal, and it's going to sit in between the two of the previous row. Pull through, and as you can see, it is between those stitches down there. And now we are going to single crochet 7 again and create a spike stitch cluster. So go ahead and single crochet 7, work another spike stitch, and I will meet you back here for the last few stitches of this row. And now we are going to just single crochet 4 in the last 4 stitches of this row. And what we have worked so far is going to be what we are continuing to work until the end of our dishcloth. So I'm going to pop up the instructions right here on screen of what you are going to be repeating for this dishcloth. So we're going to be repeating rows 3 through 10 3 more times. And I'm going to pop up what those rows are right here, so you can pause the video to follow along, or you can just rewind and follow along that way. So we're going to work those rows 3 more times, like I mentioned, and then we're going to work one final row that I will meet you back here for. So we'll go ahead and just do these repeats, and I'll meet you back here for that final row and the border. Now that we have worked all of those repeats, this is how our dishcloth is looking right now. And that final row I said that we are going to work is just going to be in our main color. So we're going to attach our main color, chain 1, and turn our work. And now we are going to just single crochet 29 across this top row. So our last row is just a plain single crochet row, and I will meet you back here at the end of this row. Now at the end of this final row, we can go ahead and chain 1 and turn our work, and we're going to leave the yarn attached still because we're going to be working a border around the outside. And the first row of the border is going to be worked in our main yarn color, and then we're going to switch to our secondary yarn color to do a reverse single crochet around the border. But I'm going to go ahead and tuck in all of these yarn tails before we work on the border. That's optional. You could just choose to ignore those for now and work the border over them, but I'm going to go ahead and tuck them in. That way you can see more clearly where I'm working the stitches. So this is by far the worst part of our dishcloth because we have a lot of yarn tails to tuck in because of all of the color changes. So I'll be right back. I'm going to tuck all of these in off camera, and I'll meet you back here for our border. Now that all of those yarn tails are finally all tucked in, we're going to start working on the border. So to work the border, we are going to just work a single crochet round all the way around the entire dishcloth. And we're going to do that by first working along this top row, and then we're going to single crochet 2 in the corner and turn and single crochet along this row, and we're going to work 1 single crochet stitch in each row. So we're just going to work along this side, single crochet 2 in the corner, work along this bottom end, 2 in the corner, and along this top end. So we're just going to single crochet all the way around, and I will meet you back here for our final round of this dishcloth. Now for the last row, we are going to switch back to our secondary color. So that is the solid white for me. We're just going to attach that here. And now we are going to work on the border around the outside of the cloth. So as you can see on this other one, the more brightly colored dishcloth, we have a raised border going around the outside. So it's not quite just this flat single crochet row. Instead, we're going to be working reverse single crochet stitches. And reverse single crochet stitches are exactly what they sound like. They are single crochet stitches going in reverse. So normally if we were continuing to crochet around the border, we would be working from right to left, just like we do every single row. But instead, we're going to be working from left to right. So we are going to insert our hook into the stitch to the right of our hook instead of the left. So we're going to just insert our hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through two. It is just a simple, normal single crochet stitch, but in the right of the hook. So it's a little bit weird. It can take some getting used to, and you do want to make sure that your tension is nice and loose because you want those stitches to pull over onto themselves. So we are going to just continue doing this all the way around our dishcloth. This is what the reverse single crochet border is looking like so far. I've only worked just a little bit of our border, but this is the raised edge and how it is looking. And if you have it single crocheted up until this point, the reverse single crochet stitch, and you decided that you absolutely hate it, I understand. A lot of people don't love the reverse single crochet stitch. It can be a little bit difficult to get used to and get the hang of. So if you don't want to do that raised border, feel free to just cut off your yarn now, or you can wait until the next optional step, which is going to be adding on the hanger and then cutting off the yarn. Or you could work just a plain single crochet border row. So you could just do the exact same thing that we just did the last round, except in the secondary yarn color, just to add a little bit of contrast. So it's totally up to you. I'm going to continue doing my reverse single crochet stitch, and I'll meet you back here to add on the optional hanger and finally be finished with our spike stitch cluster dishcloth. Now that I have finished that reverse single crochet row, we can go ahead and do a optional hanger for our dishcloth. This is totally optional. You could just fasten off the yarn now, tuck in the yarn tails, and you'll be done. But I'm going to go ahead and chain 5. And then I'm going to slip stitch back down into this corner space here. And that has created just a little hook to hang our dishcloth off of. So now I'm going to fasten off the yarn, tuck in the yarn tails, and we'll be done. And here is our finished spike cluster dishcloth. I did go ahead and steam block it, so it's laying a lot more flat now, and it looks a lot nicer. So this is the nice side. This is the other side. With these changing yarn colors, you can see it's very difficult to see where the odd little back pieces that are on this one are. So it is kind of nice having it in a color that blends in. It is all very blended together. I hope you enjoyed today's video learning how to crochet your own spike stitch cluster dishcloth. If you did, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more crochet patterns and tutorials. Thanks for watching. Bye.